This video is all about why I stopped bench pressing, what happened when I stopped bench pressing, and why you should probably stop bench pressing too. And let me tell you now, a lot of good things happened. But before we get any further, I do want to clarify, I am not anti-bench press. I bench pressed for years, I then stopped bench pressing for 8 or 9 months, and I am now bench pressing again, and I'm still loving it like I used to. But when I did step away and take some time away from bench pressing, some really good things happened, and that is what I'm going to share with you today. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and then we'll get into the first topic. And that is staleness. When it comes to a certain exercise, staleness can come in a few different forms. The mind-muscle connection that you have with a certain exercise could be decreasing over time, so it's on its way out, or it could be completely gone. Along with that, the disruption you get, the stimulus you get from an exercise might just be getting worse and worse to the point where you have to do loads of sets to even get any sort of notable stimulus, any notable soreness. And it might just take you ages to even get a pump with an exercise, or you might just not get a pump anymore. Whereas when you first started doing that exercise, you'd get a crazy pump. Along with that, you might just not look forward to doing it anymore. You might not enjoy doing it. You might even dread it. And the thing is, for most of those big compound movements that everybody does, like the bench press, it's not even a consideration to stop doing that exercise. Even with all of these bad signs, it's just you do the bench press because when you train chest, you bench. But if we look at it from a different lens and look at a different exercise, let's say a preacher curl. If you used to love preacher curls because they felt amazing and did all these good things for you, but you've been doing them for a solid year, and after that year, gradually over time, you lost your mind-muscle connection, they gave you no pump, they gave you no soreness, no disruption, and you dreaded doing them, you wouldn't carry on doing preacher curls, you just do a dumbbell curl instead, or a barbell curl, or a cable curl. You do any other curl, because it's still a curl. But when it's a compound movement, we just don't even consider not doing them. So when I finally realised that the bench press was just super stale for me and substituted it for another exercise, that new exercise got me way more stimulus, way more soreness, way more pump, way more disruption with like half of the effort. And then when I rotated back in bench press, it felt like a whole new exercise again. What I used to have to do 5 sets to achieve, I would literally feel after 1 set. It was crazy and it felt great. The next thing is strength plateaus on a certain lift, and we can discuss all day long whether strength equals hypertrophy, or if hypertrophy equals strength, or if they have anything in common at all. It really is just chicken or the egg, what came first. But at the end of the day, overthinking aside, bullshit aside, Mr. Science aside, usually, getting stronger, so notably substantially stronger at an exercise, will also mean that muscle is bigger, yeah? Especially if you are an intermediate to an advanced lifter and we're talking about 8 to 12 rep range, usually strength is going to be indicative of size. So after doing a lift like the bench press for 5 years and being at a hard plateau, it's hard to sell me that those sets were really doing anything for my chest growth. In a placebo kind of way, it could have actually been detrimental. I was telling myself that I couldn't get stronger because I was at a plateau. And because I was telling myself I couldn't get stronger, I didn't get stronger. And because I didn't get stronger, I didn't do more weight, I didn't progressively overload, and I didn't get a bigger chest. And again, it goes back to the whole, do you need to get stronger to get bigger? But whatever, usually getting bigger and getting stronger kind of are synonymous. So when I rotated out the bench press and came back to it 8 or 9 months later, at first, for 2 weeks or so, it felt really fucking weird, and I was weaker at it. Then after like 2 weeks, it felt really good, and I was nearly as strong as I used to be. And after like a month, it felt really good, and I was stronger than I used to be. So you can't tell me that there wasn't some benefit in swapping it out for a while. You can't tell me I didn't gain some strength and size in that time. And you can't tell me that I would have got that same progress by not swapping out the bench press. When I hadn't improved my bench press for like a year, I then stopped doing it and got better at it. You can disagree, but I think there's something to that. And the last point I want to touch on is a major point, and that is ego within compound lifts, especially the bench press. Ego is the enemy, right? But why? Most people find they cling to certain exercises. It's usually some of the big 3 or 4 or 5, like deadlifts, bench press, squats, overhead press, barbell rows. I think those are the main ones that I see people getting really egotistical about, and they just start to identify with the number they can do, and they will do anything they can to continue doing that number or do more than that number. But unfortunately, this often goes against their goal, and the bench press for me is a prime example. I had an ego about my bench press, and I was insecure about my bench press. So I wanted to get that number higher at any cost, and I never wanted to do less than my ego told myself that I could do. But the problem here is my sole goal is hypertrophy. All of my training is about getting bigger, more muscular for my next competition, my next show, and any strength that comes along with that is cool, and it's a good byproduct, and I enjoy getting stronger, and it's often indicative of muscle growth. But at the end of the day, my goal isn't strength, my goal is muscle. But the thing is, I was so fixated on my bench press numbers for my chest training that what I would do in my training directly opposed my goal. I would do things just to lift more weight or the same weight that I knew I could. So I would basically do things like a powerlifter would do. I would do a wider grip to reduce the range of motion. I would arch my back to reduce the range of motion. I would use leg drive to give myself momentum and take some of it off the chest. Why do these things work? Why do powerlifters do them? Because they require less muscle to get the weight up, so you can lift more weight. But I'm doing the bench press to engage my muscles, not to use momentum and less range of motion. So what I was doing to the exercise was directly taking away from why I was doing the exercise, and that's just stupid. So my fixation, my ego around bench pressing was actively making it a worse lift for my goals. And I bet some of you are nodding in agreement and feeling pretty attacked right now, but the fact of the matter is, so many people do this, and it is massively detrimental for your hypertrophy goals. And seriously, when I swapped out the bench press and came back to it 8 months later, I had zero ego around the lift. I stopped all of that powerlifting BS, and I bench pressed like a bodybuilder. I found the grip that worked best for my chest. I lowered the bar slowly and felt the stretch. I kept a flat back-ish, a safe flat back anyway, to, increase the range of motion. And I just got way more stimulus from that exercise. So in summary, when I stopped bench pressing, I realized that the bench press was stale as shit. I hadn't been progressing for years, and I had a massive ego around it. I was potentially wasting a lot of time by not swapping it out. And this honestly applies to a lot of those big ego lifts, the deadlift, the squat, the overhead press. Hey, guys, it's okay. They're not going anywhere. You can always come back to them, and especially if your goal is hypertrophy, they are by no means necessary for muscle growth at all in any way, ever, let alone just not doing them for a couple months. And not doing these lifts doesn't mean not using those muscles. Yes, I wasn't bench pressing, but I was still doing variations. I was still doing pressing for my chest. I really honed in on my dumbbell presses. I was doing machine chest presses. I was doing Smith machine chest presses. And they are really, really good variations, really good alternatives for the bench press when it does get stale. You could swap your deadlifts out for good mornings or RDLs. You can rotate your squats to hack squats and just get savagely strong at that amazing machine. It doesn't always have to be these big egotistical manly lifts. Breaking that barrier of ego and breaking the barrier of I'm doing it because that's what bodybuilders do will likely be one of the best things you ever do for your gains, for your progress in the gym. So if you relate to any of these things I said in this video, I would highly encourage you to stop bench pressing, stop deadlifting, stop squatting, stop overhead pressing, military pressing, at least for a little while. bring it back in and see what happens. Aggressive Physique Coaching, my online coaching company, is the top link in the description, so head over there for more information, or you can email me directly, ashmaypt@gmail.com, if you have any questions at all. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, let me know your thoughts, and give the video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching as always, and until the next one, see you later guys.